Do you have a full lower tummy? Sometimes people refer to this as a hanging belly or an apron belly. I have some tips for you if you're ending up with too much fabric underneath your belly when you're trying to fit your pants. Okay, so what I'm talking about here, I created a full belly, a full low belly. You can see from the side view, right? And the fabric I'm talking about is right in here. Like you can see, I can grab all of this extra fabric, and depending on the kind of fabric you're working with and the style of your pants, it may just be too much here. And what happens is when you walk, this fabric, because there's so much play there, it can cause the fabric to rub between your legs and make all sorts of wrinkles when you're walking, and it might be uncomfortable, and it might just not look the way you want it to look. So the first thing I want to show you here is people assume because you have a lower tummy, you might need a longer crotch extension. Now that may be true, but what I want to do is show you here, the first thing I want to show you is if I reach in the back and pull on the back crotch and inseam, like just pull everything back a little bit, you can see that that starts to fix some of that issue. So you want to make sure that your crotch extensions are not too long. Now, sometimes if you have a full belly in the front and you have a flat behind, it could be that your back crotch extension is creating the extra because it's pushing the fabric forward, okay? And your butt's not filling it out, so it comes forward and it creates that. So if you have an average or full behind and you're getting this, another solution might be scooping in deeper, creating a deeper hole for the crotch seam to go in between your legs. So what I want to do is show you here on the table. I have a front and back leg already taped together at the inseam so you can see the shape here. The fabric that you're trying to remove is in this area right here where I'm going to draw this circle. Okay, it's here, and it might even hang down a little bit here. So in this area there's too much fabric because it's wrapping around the fullest measurement of your tummy, and then your tops of your legs are more slender and you don't need all that width anymore. So one thing that you can do is create less fabric in here, and one way to do it would be to come in and scoop a little bit of this fabric out like this. Okay, so you can see what I've done is if I color this in, I'm getting rid of, you know, all of that fabric that I just colored brown. Okay, so what that would look like in your muslin, and you can certainly try to pin. So to start out here, I'm going to start at the straight part above where I have the extra fabric, and I'm just going to pin in a little bit deeper. Okay, and obviously you can't do this to yourself when you're wearing it, but I just want to show you if I pin deeper here, I think you can see that it's starting to pick away at that fabric. It's starting to get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to show you how you can scoop it out and test it by basting in a different curve. All right, so in order to do this, I am going to put one leg inside the other. I'm going to remove these little pins that I did. Here is, this is the front leg. This is the back leg. And so again, I'm talking about the fabric in here that's being, you know, too much fabric there. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to start ever so gradually coming in, and I'm going to just scoop this out. So I'm going to get rid of the fabric, but I want to blend back in. I don't want to come down like I started to draw here. I want to come back into the original curve, because if the rise is fitting and the crotch is correct rise-wise, I don't want to scoop down and make a deeper hole. Okay, so you want to just come like right here, scoop some of this out. And you can see right here is where I showed you on the pattern. Okay, so see how on the pattern, right? That's where I'm going to sew. So let me just do that, and then I'm going to take the stitching out and I'll put it back on, and we'll see the difference in how this fits. So now I've sewn in deeper. In order to see if that works, you have to release the original row of stitching here. So I'm just going to come in and pop a hole here. You know, then I can, once I have this hole, I think I'm going to, you know, just stick my seam ripper in so the ball side is inside, and then I can just run it right along like this. So see, I'm just running it right along my stitching, and it cuts without making a hole in my fabric. So again, I'm just sticking the thing in there and I'm holding it taut. You can see it makes it easy to release that. So let me just go in this direction, this way. And then when I get really close to where I joined my original seam, I'm just going to use the sharp side just to pick out those last few stitches here, because I want to get all of that stitching out. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, because this is just a tutorial on how to do it, I'm going to trim this to a 1/2 inch. Do not trim it to a 1/2 inch until you're sure you like it and it helped. But in this case, because I'm just going to do this as an example, I just want to show you, you do need to ultimately remove all your extra fabric to realize the best, to get the full benefit of this adjustment. So I'm just going to trim it to a 1/2 inch here and get rid of this. Now you notice I didn't remove that much. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes it looks like you have a ton of fabric, but just removing a little bit can make a big difference. So let's put this back on and see how it looks. Okay, so I think you can see I've put it back on, and I think you can see there is less fabric here. Okay, but it's also causing a little bit of wonkiness, because sometimes when you scoop, it creates a shape that's also not agreeing with you, like the scoop might be too deep. So yes, you did remove fabric from the outside and there's less here, but then you end up with like a funky little thing going on, at the base of the front crotch here. So if that happens, then scooping is not the best idea. So you would put that back. This is why I said not to trim it. Now, depending on your shape, this might work great. I'm trying to reproduce this for you using my dress form and pads, but I have had success with this in pants fitting classes. So if changing the shape of the curve doesn't agree with your shape, another option is to just shift fabric away from center front and move it to the side. The way that would look is you would literally sew in deeper. So let me use a different color. Use this green, like this, and just get rid of it like this, so you're not changing the shape. It's almost like you're mirroring the shape of the original. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off just to show you what I mean. So essentially I'm just cutting in deeper all the way like this. So the shape of the original crotch is going to be more similar because you also got rid of it here. But then what you would have to do is add it back in over here. Okay, so pulling fabric away from this area and putting it here may also help. So let's test that theory on the muslin. I'm going to show you how that would look. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply take my front crotch curve like this, pretend this is the front crotch curve. I'm going to move it over a little bit. All right, so I'm taking out my inseams a little bit because I also want to adjust those, because remember, if you already have enough length, just scooping the way I showed on my pattern makes the front crotch longer because we pushed it over. So let me just show you something here. Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to sew like this. So I'm going to come, maybe let's do a 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, you know, and then I'm going to blend into here because I don't want to lower it, 1/2 inch, but then I'm also going to trim a 1/2 inch off here, like this. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm removing all of this here, this 1/2 inch, and I'm also removing this 1/2 inch. So you can see I'm not lengthening this because I'm shortening it here and I'm lengthening it here. So basically I'm just pushing that crotch away from center, and I'm getting rid of this fabric right here and in here. Okay, and that's going to remove fabric. Now, because I'm removing it here, I may in fact need to let it out on the side. Okay, and this muslin is too big for my leg, so I'll be able to do that once I get it back on. To keep it simple, I'm just going to come over here and trim this to a 1/2 inch, like this. I'm going to take this off. Oops. So I'm going to get rid of this fabric right here. Okay. So now I can sew this, I can sew it at the new seam without having the bulk. So essentially I'm cutting it before I would cut it. Like I would try it first, but I just want to simply sew that up, moving that back, and then sewing this, removing it here, just so we can see how that looks. All right, to sew it back together, the first thing you have to do is sew your inseams back together. So let me just show you like this, right? So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to sew my inseams back together. Now, let's say you are testing your situation before you trim. This is my front leg right here. I would extend that out like this. So see, I would do this so that the front is sticking out a 1/2 inch farther from the back, but I already trimmed it, so I'm going to make them even. Right, you can see the inseams match up lengthwise because I didn't change the length of my inseams to do this. This is just getting rid of a little bit of ease. All right, and then after my inseams are sewn back together, I can now sew the crotch shut, and I'm going to start up at the top. Remember, because I'm sewing a 1/2 inch away. Okay, and then I'm going to join with my original base. Like this. And I connected back with the back. Okay, so you can see I've completely sewn the crotch back together. Let's see how that looks. All right, so now that I have this back on, two things happened. Because we sewed deeper along the front crotch and then also trimmed it off of the front crotch extension, we moved the front crotch away from center. That creates a deeper hole to sit in horizontally, not, it's a wider hole, not a deeper hole. But I was able to pull it up a little higher, and you can see now from the side view, I think you can see it's fitting the contour of the belly, right? And then from the front, I think you can see, like I can't grab as much fabric in here. I think this is a much better fit. Now the one thing about fitting a low belly is that you will have some hollows between your belly and your legs. You don't want to pull the fabric so hard that the fabric conforms with all of that. Unless you want to create like a skinny jean in a stretch denim. Like one of these two options, either scooping the front crotch curve to remove some fabric in this area, or shifting the whole thing to the side by sewing deeper here and then trimming off your inseam, will help you fit a lower full tummy. And again, you can play with it. If you have very slender legs, you might have to take both the front and back inseams in some more to get rid of a little bit more. Now, remember, don't trim anything until you're sure. So the least invasive thing to try first is to scoop a little deeper, take out the stitching and put them on and see if that fixes it. Or, you know, so if scooping doesn't work, you put that back and then you just sew deeper. So again, let me just remind you, deeper, meeting up with the original, but then trimming off here. Okay, so essentially you're moving it over and then you have to let it out. And I did, when I pinned this back on, I did relax my side seams. So I hope one of these two solutions will help you if you're trying to fit your pants with a low hanging or full low tummy. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. Thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.